Are we avoiding action? Probably. That's this week on the Badass Agile podcast. Greetings, team. Welcome to the Badass Agile podcast. I'm your host, Chris Williams. Hey, my friends. Wonderful to see you. Thank you all for your support and continuously showing up to check out this podcast and all my other stuffs on the internet. I appreciate you. Look, I think so often when the time comes to act, we find ourselves falling short. We don't necessarily do everything that needs to be done in order to attract and harvest success, mission accomplished, objective achieved. So why do we do that, and what can we do about it? Well, first, let's take a moment to remember why we're here. To create an elite tribe of leaders who truly serve their clients and communities by doing what matters and what works, relentlessly chasing value and excellence like a badass. There's so many resources out there about what you need to do to be agile, but we focus on who you need to become in order to lead teams. So let's hammer down those fundamentals to create a truly unique and powerful force in this industry. Remember, if this helps you, please share this episode with your friends. And don't forget to check out my new premium podcast all about becoming an agile entrepreneur, so you can take the skills that you've learned here and apply them to create an expansive and successful business for yourself, your family, your community, and the world. Now, let's talk about taking action. I think a lot of people believe that they're taking action. A lot of people are really good at starting things, but very few are good at staying the course and finishing them. Now, I include myself in that group. I definitely struggle with too much ambition and not enough gunpowder, not enough fuel. For me, it always starts with great intentions. We want to do things. We have ideas, we have experiments, things we want to try that could solve a difficult problem or move the needle forward. And then we get into the old traditional storyline of overplanning and overthinking, and it's around then that the wheels come off. Now, why is this important? This matters so much because really, this is what Agile was designed to solve. To get rid of the paralysis that comes from overthinking, seeking perfection, seeking certainty, seeking safety, avoiding risk, avoiding action, avoiding visibility. And Agile promised to help us solve these problems. Over 20 years ago, we decided to reduce upfront planning, to minimize excessive documentation. And yet, no matter how many clients I see and how many new initiatives I work on, I almost always have to struggle with that moment, the moment where you commit and decide to take decisive action. Action that in the eyes of everyone around you is clear indication of a decision, of movement, of a commitment to an outcome and a direction. It's this moment that scares and trips up a great many people, especially people in large corporations, and especially people working together in groups. There's something about the team that is supposed to be an activator, an actuator, a force multiplier, and yet for many people, it becomes a place where we don't feel safe, if we have to hide, because now we're exposed. The spotlight is upon us, and the moment we act and decide and choose, we run the risk of goofing it up, being seen or being judged, or worse. So what do? Our desire to show the world that we are actors, that we are creators, that we are workers, that we're reliable, trustworthy, productive, and prolific forces us to do something, but we never want to do that thing that associates our name with the sinking of the ship. So we do safer things. We do things that look like a lot of work, and in fact they are. Planning takes an awful lot of work, not only to do, but to maintain and update and pivot when the reality on the ground changes. It takes a lot of energy to report on it too. But remember, these actions, and specifically the outcomes that they generate, are not the most valuable thing. Eventually, the time comes where we must act. We must decide on a solution and take the first step towards its realization. We commit. We hire some team members. We make a promise to show somebody a finished, done thing by this Friday or next Friday or sometime in the hopefully not too distant future, and we start building. We start imagining. We start asking questions. We start bumping our heads against the reality on the ground. The things we didn't consider, the things we're unsure of, and we have to make a call, make a decision, and put it in the customer or the user's hands to let us know, did we get it right? Or maybe we'll be asking a question that's never been asked before. We'll make a discovery. It's either a joy or a discomfort because maybe we've delighted a customer and maybe we made a mistake and we didn't delight them. This is where the real action is, not in creating Gantt charts, spreadsheets, endless PowerPoint presentations, racy charts, or giant Word documents. It's not in buying a new tool and setting up the entire project inside of it. It's not in establishing a beautiful Jira template, nor is it creating a really cool environment in Miro or any other tool you can name. Action is action. Action is about making decisions, building things that are tangible, usable, testable. Action is creating things that ship. And I don't care if you're an artist, if you're a software developer, if you're in human resources, your domain doesn't matter. It is the decisive action that you take towards a result that defines you. And I fear that what's happening in the industry is that we become too comfortable with energetic output that's not the same thing as action. We spend time creating meetings, attending meetings, taking meeting notes, discussing meeting notes, distributing meeting notes, creating spreadsheets out of meeting notes, creating Monday morning dashboards for the executives that half the time people never read, creating sales decks and PowerPoints that are 100 slides long with 700 words a slide that everyone admits they haven't read from cover to cover, maybe even haven't read 10% of it. These things don't move the needle towards an outcome. The way to impact the marketplace is to build things that you can ship, test, and ultimately sell. Can't sell a PowerPoint. Can't sell a Gantt chart. But we've bought into the myth that these things are necessary to create the outputs. But I ask you, are they really? And to what extent? And more importantly, to what extent does focusing on those artifacts diminish or take away from the team's time and energy required to make the shippable thing? Any other work, including plans and documentation and sign-offs and meetings, are designed to shield us from those difficult, challenging, scary actions. I'm going to say it again. All of those energetic expenditures are designed to shield us from the work that matters most, because the work that matters most requires commitment, courage, decision, direction. And it's a rare thing to find people who are comfortable with that. The wisdom seems obvious, but it's really, really hard to do, and it's even hardest to do at scale. So what do? It's simple. Create an environment where it's always good news to commit, fail, recommit, fail, commit. And eventually, if you get comfortable with the uncomfortable, get good at committing all the way. Committing all the way to the shippable thing, to the finished product, the done thing. More specifically, the small increment of the done thing. The small, valuable increment of the done thing. Then you'll start to burn in new patterns. We might complain that, culturally, that's not easy to do. We're not supported. Then you create that support. You create that culture. It begins with you. As a Scrum Master or Agile coach, you lead the charge. Don't blame the organization for not knowing how to do this well. Blame yourself for not doing the fundamental job of coaching this behavior and coaching this change in those who, believe it or not, desperately want it and desperately need it, but may not know how to get it. There's no simpler answer. Give the trust first. Create the environment. Stand in the way of your team and danger and negative consequences, but focus on normalizing that one behavior. Action. Commit. Fail. Recommit. Fail. Commit. Succeed. My friends, I hope you found this useful and inspirational. As always, you can find me at badassagile.com. Check me out on Twitter at badass_agile and on Instagram at badassagile. As always, I look forward to seeing you next time, and until then, stay badass.